can encounter a border agent while driving or flying. I spoke with attorney Kevin Burke Jr. at Gross Schumann PC in Buffalo.
It is possible that folks at the border could ask American citizens to review their phone or their personal laptops or other electronically devices that can store electronic information.
Question: can Customs and Border Protection search your phone?
Yes, Customs and Border Protection can ask you to turn over your phone, and they are able to look at it and go through it. And if they don't like what they see on it and there's something that might be unlawful or contrary to new regulations, they can keep your phone.
If you're a U.S. citizen, you must be admitted back into the country. Not so for others, and refusing to show your phone could lead an agent to turn you away at the border. Why is this happening?
Strong positions one way or another on what's happening over in Gaza, as an example. Strong positions one way or another on Ukraine and Russia. Even strong positions on the tariff situation. Those are things that they are looking for. And, you know, if there's a way to avoid giving them an excuse to turn you away, try to avoid giving them an excuse to turn you away.
How can I minimize risk at the border? Burke says be honest, compliant, don't argue, and don't answer questions that were not asked.
I mean, if you're coming for a protest or something like that, you might want to think twice about having a lot of information on your phone or on your laptop. And like I said, log out of everything when you come in to make it less likely that they'll have a full scope to look at.
Log out before crossing the border.
That some of my business clients have been asked to turn over their cell phone or to show the laptop for a quick review. And that has happened a couple of times here. It's happening more out west.
In the last few days, viewers have been scaling up their emails and text messages to the newsroom with images of dead fish along the Lake Erie shoreline. And it was tasked as my sole responsibility to figure out why. So I casted some inquiries with the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, and they say an ecological disaster has not occurred.
Is this the end times? What are we dealing with here?
I'm saying this is a natural occurrence that we have seen in the past. This is just a larger scale event than we've seen.
Jim Markham is the Region 9 fish manager for the DEC, and in case you're wondering what a fish manager is, Jim schooled me on his day-to-day workload.
You know, we manage all the resources in Western New York, providing fishing opportunities for for all the people in Western New York and others that come into the area.
From my perch, that doesn't look too bad. So what's the deal with all the dead fish? Markham tells me that they are alewife fish, invasive to the Great Lakes. They are native to the Atlantic Ocean and work their way into fresh water during the breeding season.
These have actually experienced what we call a winter kill, and it's due to the excessive ice cover that we had and cold winter that we had on the lake this year.
This is the first year since 2019 that Lake Erie experienced 95% ice coverage during the winter. Now that the ice is thawing, we are seeing the impact it had on the species.
There is millions of fish that have died and are going to wash up.
Since you said they're an invasive species, is this a good thing for Lake Erie?
Markham
muscled up his response, saying,
"But alewife are not really a great fish to have in your lake. They are not great for production of our native fish species, and when fish eat them, they tend to have trouble reproducing."
It's hard to find a busier place than Alumni Plaza when the Toronto Maple Leafs come to town.
I kind of feel bad for the Sabre fans on these nights. I really do.
But tonight, a serious change of pace.
We expect low ticket prices with the Sabres, with the Sabres' performance on the ice. But tonight is something that we haven't seen.
That's Nick Giamuso, the CEO of VIP Tix. He tells me the cheapest tickets going into tonight's game were around $32. That's down nearly $100 from last time the Maple Leafs were in town in December.
That was always a game on the schedule that you would pencil in and say, that's a definite sellout. And it just hasn't happened this year. And that's the only explanation is that it's for political reasons.
Since President Trump began threatening and implementing tariffs on Canada earlier this year, Canadians have made their feelings known, booing the national anthem at NBA and NHL games, and now choosing to boycott games like tonight altogether.
They all want to come to the game. They just don't want to show that they're supporting the other person that's doesn't really want us here.
The attitude amongst Leafs fans that I found was if you already have the ticket, you might as well go. But if you don't have the ticket, don't go.
A serious sacrifice for Leafs fans, who usually make the trip down to the Queen City to get a break from the league's highest average ticket prices at Scotiabank Arena in Toronto.
It probably cost me my arm, my leg, and my soul.
Tonight proved that even some things can come between Canadians and their hockey.
Why do we have to do this? Why do we have to go through this? I mean, we're buddies. We shouldn't be doing this.
Buffalo Pro Soccer announced plans for their new stadium on Lee Street on Friday. In response, a neighboring business, PVS Chemical Solutions, released a statement reading in part, "It makes no sense to build a large stadium next to a chemical plant that has been there for 100 years and is not going anywhere." Buffalo Pro Soccer President Peter Marlette says an environmental analysis was conducted before choosing this location.
The air quality has been monitored by the DEC and independently by OSC forever now. And we looked into everything before making this decision, and I am absolutely confident that we made the right one. This is a great neighborhood, and it's going to be a great stadium.
The CEO of OFC Manufacturing and Equipment Services, John Williams, has invested in the Buffalo Pro Soccer team. He says in the last 15 years, he's witnessed a major transformation in the city's Valley neighborhood.
In 08 and 09, this was one of the most contaminated sites in all of New York State. It felt a little bit like a dystopian landscape, right? You had all these old pipes and vessels and remnants of this chemical plant. And as you walk around today, it's a very different neighborhood.
From this project to the waterfront is overcoming all of the industrial contamination that occurred here. We had to clean it up, we had to redevelop it, and in doing so, we are redefining Buffalo.
Marlette says the stadium is one of several attractions coming to the Valley. Adding soccer teams across the country have helped develop former industrial neighborhoods.
There are numerous examples of stadiums being built on brownfield sites in this country for professional soccer. I look at Q2 Stadium of Austin FC as one very recent, and there was community pushback on building on that site back when they did, and now it's arguably the best pro soccer atmosphere in this country.
His name is Logan Benjamin.
Meet Logan Benjamin.
I love going to amusement parks, taking walks with my family, and enjoying a beautiful day like today.
The 26-year-old runs his own web design business.
So I started Brass Ring Web Solutions in 2019.
And there's one other thing about Logan that may have shaped him, but he says does not define him.
Being diagnosed with autism in 2001, that's been something that's been very impactful to my life.
So when the nation's health secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., took aim at the CDC's latest report on rising autism rates.
These are kids who will never pay taxes. They'll never hold a job. They'll never play baseball. They'll never write a poem. They'll never go out on a date.
It obviously sparked some outrage.
Yes, I do prove those particular comments wrong every single day.
Can you hold a job?
I could hold a job.
You own a business.
And I own a business.
You own a business. He said people wouldn't be able to fall in love, but you...
I'm in a 1.5-year relationship with my wonderful girlfriend, Joelle.
RFK Jr. called autism an epidemic, citing, quote, environmental toxins as a cause.
There's not one environmental cause, there's not one trigger, there's not one thing we can blame. Instead, it's a combination of multiple circumstances.
Dr. Jonathan Rogers with the Institute for Autism Research at Canisius University says these comments increase the stigma surrounding autism.
And we should do some research into causes to see if there are a particular environmental trigger that we may be able to address. That's valuable. But to overly pathologize it and treat it like it's a disease is ridiculous and disrespectful to the community.
At the height of the COVID epidemic in 2020, state and Erie County government officials scrambled to acquire PPE, personal protective equipment, like all the masks, gloves, home and lab testing kits and materials to safeguard hospital staff and residents. Some of it even lost in this major Amherst warehouse fire back then. But at the state level, as seen in these pictures, much of it's still sitting in boxes in various state warehouses, along with expensive x-ray machines, ventilators, and other breathing assistance assist and oxygen equipment, the state controller's office last week issuing a report that over $452 million of DME, or durable medical equipment, was purchased by the state through emergency executive orders back then, some of it bought with credit cards without financial controls and the ability to trace it. That report also states not much was distributed even during the crisis, and the state really didn't make a definite plan to reduce the stockpile. State Health Department responding it does have appropriate internal cost controls and distributes some supplies. So at the Erie County level were also plenty of PPE supplies, from Ziploc bags to, yes, body bags, were purchased, some with federal dollars. There was a 2022 inventory released and a warehouse tour then for lawmakers, but now...
And we need to really update our audit on what happened to it. You know, everything from Ziploc bags down to heavy grade medical equipment was purchased by the county. And I can't tell you that we do have a recent tally or an inventory on what still exists, if it's been dispersed or if it's even been offered to different localities or hospitals, if we have any surplus.
Larigo, along with Republican legislator Frank Todaro, also have storage questions.
One, where is it being stored? Are we paying rent on this building? Do we own it? How much space is it taking up? You know, there's a lot of cost that's additionally added on to anything like this. You know, is this a building that we have security on?
The Federal Housing Finance Agency sent a letter to the Justice Department asking it to look into claims that James falsified documents and records to obtain favorable mortgage terms on as many as 3 occasions dating back over 40 years. The earliest being in 1983, when it's alleged she and her dad signed documents stating they were married in order to secure a mortgage, and then 20 years ago describing a property she bought in Brooklyn as having 4 units instead of 5 to meet requirements for government-backed loans. Then, in 2023, James bought a home in Virginia, stating it would be her primary residence in order to get a lower rate, even though as New York Attorney General, she'd be required to primarily live here. That was just months prior to her bringing a civil suit against Donald Trump for mortgage fraud, resulting in a nearly $500 million civil penalty against the president. Dennis Vacco served as both New York Attorney General and the U.S. Attorney for Western New York, and explains the difference between referrals and an actual indictment or criminal complaint, neither of which have been filed against James.
The referral is not a charge. A referral is just simply a request to the Department of Justice to conduct further inquiry. And I don't think that we should jump to conclusions here that just because there's a referral, that necessarily means there will be an eventual indictment.
Vacco notes, however, that referrals, while common, generally aren't made public prior to the DOJ deciding whether to take up a case, and even then usually aren't disclosed until such time as the investigation results in charges.
Buffalo Police Commissioner Alfonso Wright tried to assure members of the Common Council that his department is getting to the bottom of the controversy involving Sheriff's Chief DJ Granville and his police lieutenant's sister-in-law, Lucia Esquilin, who is one of 5 Buffalo police officers under investigation.
This sprawling investigation has left no stone unturned in its pursuit of the truth.
But Wednesday, 2 on Your Side tracked down a key witness, Hinda Mohammed, who says she witnessed Granville visibly drunk after the crashes.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
How could you tell?
The way he smelled, and then when I was looking into his car when he was trying to leave, I was telling him to get out the car, calm down, the police are on their way. You see the beer bottles at the bottom of his car. Like, he was absolutely drunk. He was wasted.
If people were expecting answers, they didn't get many here at Buffalo City Hall. That's because the police commissioner read from a prepared statement and refused to answer any questions from lawmakers about the Granville controversy.
If any officers are found to have violated any departmental policies or any rules and regulations, I can assure the public and this honorable body that the appropriate disciplinary measures will be taken.
Wright said he first learned of the allegations in January, the same week he was appointed by acting Mayor Chris Scanlon. But he refused to provide basic details about the case.
In this particular case, how many officers were at the scene?
Again, I really don't want to answer those questions with this going on.
I assume there are 5 people put on administrative leave, so at least 5, I believe, unless there were more. And that's fine. You don't have to answer that.
But I do want to know
like he said, what was done on that night.
I realized that you were not the commissioner at the time, but were you the deputy commissioner?
That's correct.
Great. So were you not aware of this major incident as deputy commissioner?
I was not.
Nobody informed you of anything?
I found out in January 2025.
So you were alerted at the same time that the rest of us were?
I was alerted at the same time.
Commissioner said that their investigation has been very thorough, yet we found many people at the scene of an accident that, as of the last week, still had not been contacted by the police. Does that concern you?
Oh, absolutely. We asked that they go back and talk to the people who had perhaps video, who had ring cameras, who were eyewitnesses, but they were never approached.
Let's rip the Band-Aid on any alarmist concerns circulating on social media. Right now, the Sabres aren't leaving Buffalo.
That's not our intention to go anywhere.
And that was never hinted at in previous reporting. I spoke with Sabres COO Pete Goelli by phone Wednesday morning.
These things can populate sometimes, and I just felt like it was something that we needed to address,
But he and I did talk about the complex issue of the Key Bank Center lease. It's complex because a chain of events could be triggered if Erie County walks away in October. Right now, the Sabres maintain the arena and pay for renovations, and that hasn't been a secret to anybody. A new lease agreement between the city and Sabres, however, could change that.
And it reverts back to the city. Would that still be the case where the Sabres maintain the vast majority of the financial burden?
That's where things are not quite as simple, because basically we would have to walk away from the lease the way it's currently structured.
And a new lease could create a situation where the county is out of the picture and the city is not only liable for what happens at the arena, but there could be changes to who pays for what.
I know where they're at economically. We're not looking for them to contribute beyond their means. They have a lot of other priorities.
The Sabres COO said it's very possible that an extension of the current agreement gets triggered in the summer or fall. Right now, they have the ability to extend the lease agreement for another 5 years. He does, however, recognize the county executive's desire and urgency to get out of the arena and stadium business, something the county executive reiterated again on Wednesday morning.
My goal, as it always has been, is to get the county out of the stadium and arena business. We did it with the stadium. That's my goal in the long run.
I don't want the county or the city or the state to be in a situation that they're not comfortable with, so we'll talk through what the potential options are.
Goelli emphasized, like the new Bills Stadium, that all parties must come to terms with a deal that works for everyone involved.
Our goal is to kind of sit down with the county, the state, and the city and work out a solution that's best for everybody.
But as you may remember, New York State and Erie County gave the Bills and Pagula Sports a combined $800 million for the new stadium. And multiple sources have told Two on Your Side that renovations at Key Bank Center could range between $75 and $200 million.
Will the organization be able to make those types of renovations, especially if it's in that ballpark? Will the organization need assistance from New York State to do that?
I don't have that answer yet either. I think the partnership that we set up here at the stadium has been beneficial to everybody involved, so I wouldn't rule it out.
Every bottle has a place here at Premier Wine and Spirits in Amherst. But for manager John Notarius, this isn't just about shelf space, it's about survival.
Very damaging to our business because wine accounts for probably about 60% of what we sell, but probably about 75% of our profits.
That bill, introduced by State Senator George Barillo, would allow grocery stores across New York to sell wine, but only wine produced in New York State. Supporters say it's a win for farmers, winemakers, and shoppers who want local options and convenience.
40 other states are able to have a happy and healthy balance of being able to sell wine in grocery stores and not really make a huge impact on their sales. We know that it can work.
Top spokesperson Kathy Salter says customer support is already there. Their recent survey found 75% of shoppers want to buy wine during their grocery run.
TOPS is really about supporting local. We support our local growers, our local farmers, our local vendors, and so this is just another chapter to that.
But Notarius doesn't buy it. His shop carries more than 500 New York wines and 150 local spirits, and he believes once big chains control the shelves, small producers will be left behind.
They say they'll carry some New York State wine. They will for a short period of time, and then when it becomes, out of favor or doesn't sell up to their expectations, they'll cut the SKUs and then they'll sell their store labels or private labels.
Senator Barillo argues the bill is a compromise designed to grow the state's $15 billion wine industry while preserving the unique role of local liquor stores.
What I hear time and time again is look at what other states have done. You know, New York State's one of the few states that doesn't allow the sale of wine in grocery stores. So while I understand the unfair competition that has existed forever because of New York State government, I think we have to look at some kind of a compromise proposal.
Tomorrow, the nation will commemorate the start of our independence. On April 19th, 250 years ago, British soldiers and Massachusetts militia clashed in the battles of Lexington and Concord. Although far from the scene of the action, Fort Niagara has a strong connection to the events of that fateful day.
Fort Niagara was the headquarters of the British on the Great Lakes.
Despite the fact that during the War of 1812, this was the front line as the United States fought across the Niagara frontier in southern Ontario against the forces of Britain. Just across the river from Fort Niagara was the British fort, Fort George. But on the date in question, Fort Niagara flew the British flag.
By controlling the Great Lakes, the British had access to the back doors of New York and Pennsylvania. So they were organizing raids out of Fort Niagara that were going down into the Mohawk Valley, down into western Pennsylvania. And the whole strategy was to divert resources and manpower away from Washington's army.
Fort Niagara was originally built by the French in 1726. It was captured by the British during the French and Indian War, and the fort was occupied by British troops throughout the entire American Revolution.
It was supposed to come to the United States, but the British held on to it in addition to several other frontier posts for 13 more years. And it took another treaty in the 1790s to finally convey Fort Niagara to the U.S.
The ubiquitous shots of the town water tower and a small ranch home on Campbell Boulevard with the American flag flying, always seen in our coverage back then. And it was really hard for all to accept that this quiet rural community could in any way be connected to the terror seen 1,256 miles away, as 168 lives were lost, 850 injured in an instant, as the Mora Federal Building in downtown Oklahoma City was reduced to rubble from a neighbor who lived near the teenage home of Timothy McVeigh, who was convicted and later executed for detonating that blast in a rented box truck.
It's unreal. I mean, such a little town, you know, and I guess that's the way the story usually goes. Somebody quiet from a little town, but no, I can't believe it.
To a classmate who attended Star Point High School with Timothy McVeigh.
From what I remember, he was a very nice kid. He was kind of quiet and fun. That's why I was so shocked to hear that.
And speaking of iconic but uncanny regional connections, this particular comment from that day in 1995.
First you have O.J. Simpson down the street 5 miles that way, and then these people 5 miles up the road. It's
What do you make of it?
Scary. I don't know. I'm not really sure what to. I have to process all this, and it's kind of scary. I guess everything can pretty much hit close to home.
And then the following Sunday at the Good Shepherd's Church in Pendleton, where Timothy McVeigh went to church and mass with his family as a child.
We pray for everybody,
Did you?
including Timothy McVeigh, and especially the people in Oklahoma City that have lost somebody. All we can do is pray.
We can't undo what's done, but we still can't let the hate overtake us because that's our Christian faith. We have to forgive him, and it's tough. That's a tough part of it.
They also offered prayers back then for Timothy's father, Bill McVeigh, widely known as a decent, hardworking, and good family man who saw his life change also in an instant.
He is upset, of course. He is, he doesn't deny things. He just says, if he would like to get things back to normal as soon as possible.